Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast, which is all about sleep. Sleep, very important, the way we live our lives, how we function, and also, as we'll discover a little bit later, how we eat as well. But first, I'd like to introduce you to my lovely special guest, Dr. Lindsay Browning, who is an expert on all things sleep. She has a doctorate in insomnia from the University of Oxford, amongst other qualifications. And she is going to talk to us all about sleep, give you a few tips to get a better sleep. And we're also going to understand how we can access more of Lindsay's expertise. So, Lindsay, hello.
Hello, thank you so much for inviting me to be in your show.
Oh,
Very
it's a
exciting.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for joining. Yeah, so this sleep thing is it's a really important part of how we function, isn't it? Just give us a rundown why sleep is so important for us.
Yeah, I mean, have you heard of like the three pillars of health? Food, nutrition, exercise, and sleep. It's three things that are hugely important to being overall healthy. And sleep has long been the forgotten part of that. When I first graduated, it was something that people weren't really thinking about. It was just something that happened, not something that people really tried to do. But since I graduated, in the last 15 years, there's been a huge amount of research and things to show that sleeping well, like sleeping enough hours in good quality sleep, so not just sleeping the right amount, but sleeping the right amount and well, is associated with reduced risk of depression, anxiety, lower cancer risk, certain types of cancers, dementia, low risk of heart attacks, heart disease. You have improved immunity, you have lower risk of diabetes, obesity, and your memory is likely to be better. It's just associated with everything. Just like healthy eating, exercise they play into so many aspects of our life. Sleep is also one of those things that's so important.
That's amazing, isn't it? Gosh, just that list of things that you ran off there about how important and how, I suppose, lack of sleep and lack of the right quality sleep can really impact. And do you think we're quite complacent about it?
Well, I would have said yes 5, 10 years ago, but now I would say maybe not as much. There's been so much interest in sleep that almost I would say it's almost going the other way, a little bit like you know, things like anorexia, where somebody gets so obsessed with food and it can actually become a negative thing. There's a sleep to a certain extent. If you start to become so obsessed with it and trying to make it perfect, that actually you end up making it worse. So
Yes.
if you aren't thinking about sleep, then genuinely I would want people to know that sleep is an important thing. But I'm so happy that sleep is such a mainstream thing at the moment, and most people I think are aware that sleep is an important factor. Like they're aware that they should be eating more fruit and vegetables and whole grains, and it doesn't mean people necessarily do it,
Mm.
but they know that they should.
Yes, and of course we've got next week. It's the 19th, isn't it? We've got this
Not this week. Yeah.
national. Yes, is it? Yes, gosh,
World
it is.
World Sleep Day.
That's
Yeah, on
right.
Friday.
World Sleep Day. Yes, which is the reason why I wanted to talk to you this week, so that you and I can be part of that in this way as well. So you mentioned just then that it's not always that easy for people to find a good quality sleep.
Mhm.
What are the usual sort of obstacles to that, do you think, in your experience?
Well, I think that one of the main complaints that I get are that people wake up a lot through the night and they can't get back to sleep again. That tends to
Mm,
happen. It's as part of the aging process, that as we get older, our sleep, we start to realize that we're waking up through the night. And in fact, everyone has been waking up throughout the night since they were a baby, a child, 21-year-old, up to an older adult. But we only remember that we've woken up if it's been at least 2 minutes long. So it takes a while for our brain to be able to register that we're awake and store that into long-term memory. So when we're younger, often those awakenings are really short. We don't realize that we've woken up. So that means that we think when we were 20 that we slept through the night without waking up. And as we get older, we start to wake up for a little bit longer and realize we're awake. And that's when you get that loo break and you think, oh, it's nearly the toilet that's woken me up. And then people can start to worry that their sleep is now disrupted or fragmented in some way, and it's not good quality sleep. But it is good quality sleep. It's just that you realize you've woken up. Nothing's really changed. But the problem is when you start to worry your sleep has gone wrong, then you start to, when you're worrying, your brain starts to go worrying, your anxiety starts to go up, and then you can't go back to sleep again. So it's something that wasn't a problem, but you're worrying about it, and then it actually turns into a real problem. And so lots of people I see are, they've started waking up 3-4 in the morning and then they can't go back to sleep again because they're so worried that their sleep is of poor quality. So it's about a bit of education and a few techniques for being able to get back to sleep again.
Yes. As you were talking, I was just wondering whether all these new apps that tell us how long we've been sleeping, and some of them even try to predict what kind of quality sleep we've had. I mean, do you think that they are helpful overall? So what's your view of those?
Well, for people who maybe aren't aware of the importance of sleep, and then they have been partying late or working into the early hours of the morning, going to sleep, getting up much too early for whatever reason, for them to realize, well, actually, look, over the last week or two, you've only been averaging 5 hours sleep. That's a bit of a wake-up call, and that's important. But I would say more people, they are aware that they need sleep, but they are trying to sleep, and then these apps can basically just make you feel like a failure, because your watch will tell you, your Fitbit, Apple Watch, whatever, will say, oh, last night you woke up 5 times and your sleep quality was poor. And you think, oh no, that's terrible, my sleep quality was poor, that I must try hard to sleep. And then you get into that situation I just mentioned. The more you're worrying about your sleep, the worse it gets. And at the end of the day, these things that your sleep doesn't happen in your wrist. Sleep happens in your brain. So it's just a guess. And some of them are quite good at guessing, but it's still a guess. So it's much better to understand how sleep works and to rate how well you think you slept on how refreshed you feel in the morning, because that's what's really important. Not what score your watch gave you. I woke up in the morning and I feel good, then you probably slept really well. That's all you need to worry about, really.
And that's a really lovely segue into just understanding a little bit more about the science of it, because we hear about deep sleep and REM, and it just be really good in a nutshell just to understand the different types of sleep and the process and the really sort of beneficial restorative parts of that sleeping process.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we fall asleep, I mentioned that we wake up throughout the night. Well, we have these things called sleep cycles. So every about hour and a half to 110 minutes, you go through a full sleep cycle. So you go into a light sleep, and then a deep sleep, and then a dreaming sleep. And dreaming sleep is REM sleep, which is rapid eye movement sleep, because when you're dreaming, your eyes move rapidly beneath your eyelids. So you go light sleep, deep sleep, dreaming sleep, and then it'll start again. And these are sleep cycles, and they continue throughout the night.
The whole night, so it's constantly changing, right?
Constantly doing these things, and pretty much it takes about an hour and a half to go through a full sleep cycle, and you pretty much will wake up in between, and then you'll have another sleep cycle, and you'll wake up, and you have another, and that waking up might just be rolling over and adjusting the covers back to sleep again. You'll never realize that you've woken up from most of these awakenings. But if I was monitoring your brain activity and looking at your brain waves, I could tell that you woke up. But you need all of these parts of sleep, light sleep, deep sleep, dreaming sleep. Now, I've had loads of clients, or not clients, but people who wanted to be a client, phone me up to say, Dr. Browning, can I come and see you? Because my Fitbit told me that I'm getting 20% deep sleep, and I need to get the full night of deep sleep so that that's good quality sleep. And I'm like, no, you don't. Like about half of our sleep is light sleep, about 20-25% is deep sleep, and the remaining 20-25% is dreaming sleep. So the best sleeper in the world, 20-25% deep sleep, is perfect. No one gets loads more than that. And if you were getting 50% deep sleep, for example, then you're not healthy. If you had the whole night of deep sleep, then there's something very wrong with you. But if you are looking at these apps and it tells you, as a layperson, deep sleep sounds like it's the best kind of sleep, doesn't it? So you
Yes.
think, oh, but I should get more of that. But
Yes.
actually, that's nonsense. You need all of the different parts, and they have different jobs. And if you only had one kind, you would be, really unhealthy. I kind of like an example of, I said that sleep's associated with reduced risk of Alzheimer's. Actually, I may not have said that, but it is. So how it does that is you have these things in your brain called amyloid plaques, which are sticky substances, like sticky proteins that just build up in your brain. And the more you get of them, the more clogged up your brain gets, and that causes Alzheimer's. Now, when we sleep, we've known that sleeping the right amount is associated with reduced risk of Alzheimer's. But what we found is in a real neuroimaging study, and that's when they use imaging, looking at the brain in real time while people slept, they saw that what happens is when you sleep, you have this thing called cerebrospinal fluid in your spine, and channels open up from your spine to your brain, because normally there's a blood-brain barrier and fluid can't get between. But in your sleep, it opens up, and this cerebrospinal fluid physically washes over your brain and washes away the amyloid plaques while you sleep, which is absolutely amazing. But the trouble is, if you're not getting that doesn't happen in all the parts of sleep. And if you're not getting enough sleep or the right kinds of sleep, then your brain won't have time to do that. Your brain prioritizes in your sleep the things it really has to do. And the things that it doesn't have to do, it won't get to yet. Just like if you or I were really, really busy, and at the moment it's like World Sleep Day on Friday, and I've just had a book published. I'm crazy busy, and I've been homeschooling kids for forever, so I'm really busy. My bathroom, not as clean as I would like it to be. I'm going to admit it, because I'm too busy. And that's okay for short term. The bathroom, I haven't cleaned it for a week or two. It's not great, but I'm going to get to it. But if that continued for a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, that would be really horrendously disgusting. This is like your brain. If you're not sleeping enough, like if you're too stressed, your brain doesn't have time to do all the different things it needs to do, like boost your immune system, get rid of the amyloid plaques, help your heart, help your weight, produce the right amount of hormones. So something's got to give. So you're not getting the benefits. So you're getting the core stuff, but you're not getting the full health benefits of sleep, just like the bathroom. And if you don't get enough sleep for a short amount of time, it's fine. It'll be fine, because if it was so cut and dry that if you had a month or two of poor sleep that you were going to get all these terrible illnesses, then every new parent on the planet
yes, exactly,
have cancer and Alzheimer's, and so it's just about that long-term build-up. That's like the bathroom. Like, you can survive with an icky bathroom because you're too busy for a while, but you can't if it's been months or years.
It's chronic. Yes.
Yeah.
I wish that people listening could also see you, because I was
I'm all hand motions,
I was able to see all the no, don't apologize. I was able to see all the animation of it all kind of happening. So no, that was amazing. No, it was great. It's great.
No, I'm a real hand talker. I think I must be Italian.
Well, you're very passionate about it, and that's what we like at the Mindful Eating Clinic. We like people that are passionate. So that's absolutely perfect. No, gosh, it really is fascinating, isn't it? And I know
I'm sorry, I didn't mention, but you said about the different parts of sleep. So just to quickly touch on,
yes,
deep sleep is where our body physically regenerates. So if you do lots of exercise, then you'll need more deep sleep, because your body needs to repair itself more. So you'll get more deep sleep. And dreaming sleep, or REM sleep, is where your body, your mind, processes emotion. So if you're going through a difficult time, you'll have more and more vivid dreaming sleep. So that's what's happened with the coronavirus crisis. People are reporting lots of vivid dreams and lots of waking up, because their brain is processing all of that understanding of emotion during their dreaming sleep. But we need all these different kinds of sleep to be healthy.
And your brain and your body knows what it needs. So it will, given the opportunity, i.e. you're not burning candles at both ends, it will actually take and use and create and generate the sleep that it needs in order to do instinctively what it needs.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yes, it really is incredible, isn't it? And I think the question that everybody asks is, oh, well, how much sleep do I need then? So what would your answer to that question be?
Well, that's a great question. Now, maybe you might have heard of the 8 hours. And to be fair, the recommendations are between 7 and 9 hours for a working age adult. But that's pretty wide. That's a pretty wide zone. You know, the difference between 7 and 9 hours is a 2-hour difference. And obviously 8 hours is smack bang in the middle. But the point is, if you're someone who needs 7 hours a night and you think you should be getting 9, then you're trying to get an extra 2 hours every night that you don't really need. And basically you're going to struggle to fall asleep. Whereas if you're somebody who needs 9, but you're only giving yourself the opportunity to sleep for 7, or even just for 8, thinking, well, that's the guideline, then you're not getting enough for what you need. So it's really to do with how you feel during the day. You know, are you roundabout within that window? And if you're getting 6.5 or 9.5, you know, it's a spectrum. So if you're a little bit outside either, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you're wildly outside, if you're getting 5 hours a night, or if you're getting 11, 12, something's probably not right there. And it's be worth looking at, you know, why that's happening.
Yes.
And the biggest problem I find is when we have partners, one of whom is a 7 hours a night sleeper and one of whom is a 9. And the trouble is you'll probably both try and get the same amount of sleep, and both of you won't be happy. So it's really about looking at your own sleep needs, genuinely. And sometimes if your partner is a 7 hours and you're a 9, then go to bed earlier or sleep in later, and just accept that, because otherwise you're going to be not happy.
Yes, or even some nights in the week you just are in a different bedroom because that's just sensible, you know, if that's what you need. It's interesting because quite often I have a discussion about sleep with my clients, particularly clients who are overeating in the evening.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time we sort of get to a point where we realize that actually they're not hungry, they're actually just tired, and they just need to go to bed rather than, you know, fueling themselves, thinking that it's a physical need for food. And I'm also quite interested in the impact of a lack of sleep on the two hormones that are really important for hunger and for fullness. There's the leptin and there's ghrelin, isn't there? So what's your take on that particular topic? Because it's something I talk a lot, but I'd really like to hear your expert view on it.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about this actually, because it's very fashionable for things to come out about, well, get up really, really early and you can start your day and you can go to the, you know, do your workout before work and you can do this and that. And, you know, and personally, I'm an owl. So I'm really someone who is I'm much more at my best later on in the day. So thank you for having this too.
Pleasure.
Because I'm rather than a 9 o'clock podcast, because you're getting a better me than you would do at 9 o'clock in the morning. But the trouble is, when you are not sleeping enough, then you produce too much of these hormones that regulate food. So if you're getting up super early and sacrificing sleep, that's the point. I mean, getting up early is great as long as you're going to bed early. You know, getting up early and starting your day, brilliant, but not if you're going to bed at 11 and then deciding to set your alarm for 5. That's only giving you a 6-hour window in which you could sleep, which is not giving you the opportunity to sleep enough. And if you're sacrificing sleep for exercise, then you're just undoing the good of the exercise by not sleeping enough. Because like you said, leptin and ghrelin. So leptin is the hormone that regulates us feeling satiated. So when we have the right, you know, leptin helps us to feel full. When you don't get enough sleep, you don't produce enough of that hormone. And you need to eat more food before you feel full. And ghrelin is the hormone which makes you feel hungry. So if you don't sleep enough, you produce too much of that hormone, and then you feel extra hungry and you want to eat more and more food. So not only do you want to eat more food, but it takes more of that food to eat for you to feel satiated. And also you're more likely to choose unhealthy, not good foods. You're more likely to choose, you know, sweet foods like cakes and biscuits, crisps. So
because of their instant glucose conversion.
And it's all about the hormones. So if you're sacrificing sleep because you want to lose weight and exercise, then exercise is going to help you, but then you're going to be eating more, choosing food types. So you need to do both. You know, I am hugely passionate about exercise, and I've got an exercise bike in my office here, and eating well. I genuinely believe that those three pillars are vital. Good food, good exercise, and good sleep are all part of it, but not to sacrifice one at the expense of the others.
Yes, yes. Brilliant. And you said that you've written a book, which we're going to talk about very soon. But before we do that, I'm really interested to understand a little bit more about how you work with people. So they would get in touch with a particular need, and then how does your work unfold?
Sure. So I see, I do two separate things. So I help companies and organisations with sort of well-being talks, and I work with the police and the NHS and utilities companies on shift work strategy, all that kind of stuff. But individuals, I help them when they're not sleeping well, and I help adults and children. So someone will contact me because they have a sleeping issue, a bit like the example I gave of the person wanting to have more deep sleep, so that they're not getting enough deep sleep. So I'll speak to them on the phone and find out what their sleep issue is and check that I am the right person to help them. And for example, if they say, I want to get the full night of deep sleep, I'll explain to them that that's not a real thing and say, you don't need to see me, you're fine. Or if on the phone it's obvious that they have another disorder, because there are lots of sleeping problems that are a medical sleep problem, like sleep apnea, which is hugely underdiagnosed, and that's where people stop breathing during the night. And what happens is with sleep apnea, it's often to do with either someone being maybe overweight, because the weight of your throat can, when you're asleep, and your muscle tone, basically we are paralyzed during our sleep, so we don't act out our dreams. So when you're asleep and your muscle tone goes down, so you're very floppy and relaxed, if your throat is very heavy, that can press and close up basically during the night and stop you breathing, which will then you stop breathing for a while, and then your body will go, oh, we're not breathing, and it'll wake you up, take a huge gulp of air, go back to sleep again. You won't realize that you've woken up, and that can happen hundreds of times in the night.
Gosh.
Which means, and this is why sleeping too much is also a problem. I said 7 to 9 hours. It's not the more sleep the better. It's not. So if you're sleeping loads, it often is a sign that because the sleep quality is not good, because you've got sleep apnea, waking up throughout the night. So when someone speaks to me on the phone, I'll make sure that I'm the right person to help them, and if I'm not, I'll direct them into the best place to go. Like sleep apnea, for example, would need potentially an operation or a CPAP machine. And if I'm the right person, then I'll send them out sleep diaries to complete in advance of seeing me, and some questionnaires to get a full medical and sleep history. And then we'd have a session. So I offered there are two main approaches, both of which are based on this thing called CBTI, which is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is the NICE guideline recommended treatment for insomnia. And this is based on looking at your behaviors about sleep and your cognitions. So making sure that you're doing the right things at night, and also that you're not worrying, or your anxiety levels aren't stopping sleep. So we address both those aspects. So I send them the questionnaires, and we'd either have one session, especially for less severe insomnias, one session is sufficient. So I have the one session where I'll explain to them all about sleep, about what I think is wrong with their sleep and how they can fix it, and put a plan in place. And then I'd monitor their sleep for a month afterwards to make sure that what I've suggested works, and then they'd be fixed.
Off they go.
Or CBTI proper, because they're both based on the same ethos, but proper CBTI is like a 5-session program. So I'd offer them for more severe insomnias that be going on for some time or are more debilitating. Then we'd have a 5-session program where it's the same approach, but a lot more detail, a lot more detailed techniques, and a lot more sort of navigating them through and making sure that everything that we can tweak and fix. And then like the other program, I'd monitor their sleep for a further month afterwards. And my my aim is that I never have a repeat customer, because that means that I haven't taught them. I don't. It's not like I'm a masseuse, and then when you hurt your back again, you come back. I want to teach people, empower them, that they know how to fix their sleep, because their sleep will go wrong again. Everyone's sleep goes wrong. If you are faced with a job stress or a health issue or a relationship worry, you're not going to sleep well. But it's about making sure that you know what to do when your sleep's gone a bit wrong, so that it doesn't spiral into a really negative ongoing sleep issue. So it's knowing how to
Yes.
tweak it and get it back to being a good sleeper again.
And I
So
love
that's
that
how I work.
idea. I love that idea that what you're trying to do is to empower people and
Yeah.
educate people. And I'm very similar. Like you, my success is if somebody fixes their disordered eating and doesn't need to come back, that they have all the tools in their head to navigate difficult situations, navigate those slight slips, because that's what it's about, isn't it? That, you know, that real depth of care and putting someone on the right
Definitely.
road.
It's a terrible business model, but it's
Well, yes.
but it's
Somebody
a
said
really
to
good.
me, somebody said to me once, so basically you're a victim of your own success. I said, yes, something like that, but I'm very proud of that fact. So yeah, exactly. So well, I have two questions about this book. Firstly, I want to know how on earth you have managed to write it over the past period. And secondly, I'd like to know all about it and where we can get hold of it, Lindsay.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, so it's really amazing because this time last year I hadn't even thought about the book at all. But the publishers, when lockdown happened last year, which is almost a year ago today, isn't it? It's like a year, we're about a week within when it all happened.
Yes.
So when it happened, I was before that point, I was really incredibly busy with individual clients and corporate stuff, and just massively busy. And then lockdown happened. And then even though I can do most of my work via Zoom, as everyone happened at that point, everything stopped. So all my work just instantly stopped. And obviously I had to homeschool my children. So life changed. And then I got a phone call from the publishers in about April, and they said, just completely out of the blue, I'd never spoken to publishers before or anything. They just said, oh, we've just found you. Would you like to write a book about sleep for us? And I thought, yeah, sure, great, because all my clients have stopped. Brilliant, I'll do that. I hadn't fully appreciated at that point how hard it was going to be, because I was by then homeschooling 2 children. My work started picking up again. My husband got coronavirus and he was really quite ill. I was, helping my shielding relatives. It was my dad was in hospital and he had to get social service involved. Basically, it was ridiculously busy and stressful. And the deadline was like 2 months. So I had to write the book within 2 months. And somehow I still, to this day, do not understand how I managed to do it, but I did. So yeah, and it's amazing. And now, less than a year after that, it's you can buy it Waterstones, Amazon, any book shop really.
Brilliant. And I will put details in the podcast info. And it's so good to have you on, because I know that you are a real expert. Because certainly in my work, if I feel that someone is actually not really able to apply the thinking and the focus or the energy, I often ask them, how they're sleeping, because it does affect the brain's ability, doesn't it, to grasp thoughts and to have that determination and application. Can you just talk a little bit about that for us? Why it's so important?
Even just one day of poor sleep immediately impacts your ability to make decisions, for example. And I'm just working with some security firm actually at the moment, and poor sleep for just one night makes somebody much more likely to lie or be sneaky even. So you're probably more likely to lie to yourself. So even
Really?
sleeping well, which is, if you think about a security guard who might be potentially manipulated or bribed, then if they're not sleeping well, they're far more likely to make choices that are not the moral correct choice. So sleeping well, it impacts your ability to make ethical decisions, as well as cognitive decisions, as well as motivation. You don't have the energy to make the right choices. To eat healthily, it takes not a lot of effort, but a little bit of effort. You have to go to the shop, you have to choose healthy options, and maybe you have to do a little bit of chopping up and cooking. Opening a bag of crisps or just driving by McDonald's is a very easy instant, but they're not going to help you be healthy, are they?
No.
And if you're tired, you're not going to have the energy, let alone you're going to, like I said, with the hormone choices, you're more likely to want the bag of crisps and the McDonald's than you are carrot sticks.
And you
So
also
yeah.
probably you don't have the resilience to be able to cope with the times when that behavior change relapses, because inevitably it does, because it's a cycle, and we need to have really all our faculties and as much energy as we can to be resilient in those situations, can't
Yeah,
we? I mean, it
absolutely.
just, as you say, I'm just going back to the top of our discussion, those three pillars have to work in tandem, and they just underpin each other, don't they?
Yeah,
Completely.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so important for your sleep. Is not just a waste of time when you're unconscious, because
Mm,
if it were that pointless, we wouldn't do it.
mm,
Basically,
mm.
evolutionarily, when you're asleep, you're highly vulnerable. When we were cavemen, if you were asleep, then you're much more likely to be eaten by a wolf or a, that you're vulnerable. So sleep must be so vital for us to be doing it. Just think about
Yes.
how we evolved to be the best versions of us that we can possibly be. Every animal sleeps. Everyone sleeps. We have to sleep. It's our brains need us to sleep. It's not just wasted time. It's not a luxury.
Mm.
It's important. It's really important.
And what sort of things, we're getting to the end, but I just want to give people a few ideas of, in your view, things that can really impact sleep that we could perhaps do something about, like blue light, like eating late, like eating certain things. Do you have any view on perhaps a few key things that impact?
Sure. I think the one of the main things is stress, because when we are stressed, think of our fight or flight mechanism. When we're anxious or stressed, then our whole cortisol is going through our body. We're in a heightened state of alert because there's stress going on. And of course, what would be dangerous if we were in a heightened state of alertness? Well, sleep would be dangerous, because if we've got a challenge around us of danger, we don't want to be falling asleep. So as part of that stress, coping with stress, our bodies are designed to stay awake extra so that we can think about those. You're lying in bed worrying, thinking about all those options and things going on in your mind. It's because your brain is thinking there is this big problem in our relationship or our health or our business. We need to stay up and think about solutions because that's the best way to solve it. But most of my clients, they're staying up late worrying about the fact they're not sleeping, which is the
Yeah.
most frustrating thing. You're lying in bed thinking, I didn't sleep well last night. I really need to try harder to sleep well tonight. And of course, that anxiety about sleep is stopping you sleeping. So, in answer to your question, relaxation is a huge part of it. Anything that you can do to self-care, anything you can do to relax a little bit is going to really help your sleep, whether that be meditation, yoga, having a nice bath, just talking to a friend, reading a book. Anything that is going to help you just calm down is going to help.
Switch
It
off.
really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then food wise, there are lots of better food choices that you can make. There are foods that contain more sort of natural melatonin or tryptophan, but in fairness, the amount of them in those foods is very negligible. But yeah, a nice warm glass of milk before bed is great, but it's not going to
That's been
cure
around
chronic
for
insomnia.
ages, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I remember being given a glass of warm milk by my grandmother, but I mean, maybe
absolutely.
some of it is slightly placebo, so we think it's calming us down and therefore we calm down, and so actually perhaps it provides that end result that we're looking
Well,
for,
that's what a
even though
routine.
chemically speaking, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like a baby. To think about, I always say, think about what you do with your children, your babies. We always give babies and children a wind down routine before bed. We give them a bath, milk, story, bed,
Sorry, yeah.
everything. We use the same words, we use the same smells, maybe the same bath smells. And what do we do when we grow up? We just stop all of that, don't we? We just think, oh, great, I've got an extra hour. I'll do this work email, or I'll scroll through Twitter for an hour.
Go on my
Whatever,
Xbox, yes.
whatever it is, would we do that? Would we say, hey, little 6-year-old daughter of mine, here, why don't you go on Twitter for, well, they wouldn't do Twitter,
No,
they'd
but
probably do
the
TikTok,
equivalent,
the
yes.
equivalent.
Yes.
Or would you start chasing your kids around doing catch games right before bed? Of course you wouldn't, because you know about calming, relaxing. And yet if you're doing all that crazy stress stuff right before bed, then of course you're not going to sleep. Just think
Yeah.
about what you do for your kids and
Yes.
value yourself. And there's a reason that we give children a glass of milk and a cookie before bed. It's because it's relaxing, and we have a bath before bed, and we have that wind down time. It's not just a wasted time. It's a really good idea. But
Yes.
we have to prioritize that in our lives and prioritize ourselves.
And especially because compared with children, we've got 100 more things in our head.
Yeah.
So actually it's even more necessary, isn't it? To be doing that. Oh, that's a fantastic tip to leave us with, and a really, really interesting discussion. And thank you so much for all the info. So I will make sure that in the information on the podcast, people know that your book is available and where to find it. And where else can they find you, Lindsay?
So my book is Navigating Sleeplessness, which is obviously everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but you know what I mean. And I'm
widely available, I think is the
widely
phrase.
Available. It's available. You can buy it in America on the 1st of April if you want to.
And it's
UK
called
now.
Navigating
Sleeplessness.
Sleeplessness, yes, lovely.
And my website is troublesleeping.co.uk, and I'm on all social media at Dr Browning Sleep, as in at Dr Browning Sleep. And yeah, on Instagram I also do a newsletter with monthly sleep tips, so you could sign up via any of the social media or via my website to get monthly free sleep tips.
Fantastic. And lastly, what do you do to ensure that you get a good night's sleep personally?
Yeah, I do try to have a bit of a wind down time before bed. It's definitely easier said than done, because sometimes work's too busy and you end up working really late, and then of course if I am working really late on my laptop, doing loads of work, shut the laptop down and expect to sleep, it's not going to happen. So, sometimes life gets in the way, but I know as a sleep person that that's going to happen, and that was my own fault. So normally I would, as an owl, like I said, like chronotype, and I'm a really definite owl. So I have to tell myself, I've got that alarm on my phone to say it's bedtime, otherwise I just keep going. So I say it's bedtime, and then I get ready for bed, have a nice warm drink of a decaf, like sleepy tea thing.
Yes.
I've got none of these things are going to cure insomnia, but they're just nice, part of that sleepy routine. Yes. I've got like some pillow spray, lavender pillow spray, just because it's nice. Read a book and sleep, and I'm a great sleeper. So
and off you go.
I'm good.
Yeah. Wonderful, fantastic. And I hope that having listened to this, all of our clinic listeners will also be great sleepers. So thank you so much for spending the time and giving us all your expertise, and good luck with the book. I'm sure it will be a huge success, because it's something that we all need to be able to navigate, certainly. So brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie.
Bye-bye. You're very welcome.